Today we're going to check out the Zidoo UHD8000 media player. Shout out to Zidoo for sending me this player for review. You can find links in this video's description if you want more information or if you want to pick one up. Inside the box you get an HDMI cable, power cord, antennas, the remote control, rack mount screws, rack mounts, and the quick start guide. The player itself has an aluminum alloy body which gives it a premium feel. Unfortunately, my demo unit has an upside down display window. On the front, you'll find a USB input and the power button. On the back are connections for RS-232, coax and optical outputs, 2 HDMI 2.1 outputs, one for audio only, LAN connection, 2 USB 3.0 ins, USB audio and IR inputs, a trigger out, and balanced and unbalanced audio outputs. It measures 17 inches wide by 12 inches deep by 3 inches in height, and it weighs 13 pounds. Behind the front panel are 2 drive bays for internal storage, which do not come included. Processing is done by an AM Logic S928XK ARM processor. It has 8 gigs of DDR4 plus 64 gigs of eMMC for onboard storage. The big thing about this player is that it does support 8K 60 output, so it can upscale everything you play to 8K. You will of course need an 8K capable display to make use of the feature. It'll support all the popular AV formats like MP4 and MKV, plus Dolby Atmos and DTS:X, plus all flavors of HDR. However, it will not support 3D playback of any kind. You'll have to get one of their older players for that. I'm not sure what the limitation is, but keep that in mind if you're a 3D fan. Alright, once you power on the Zidoo, you're going to be taken to the home page. The first option that we have here is the Media Center / File Manager. This is basically a file manager, so everything that you have connected up to the device is going to show here on the left-hand side. Right now you can see that I've got a few devices hooked up via the USB cable in the back of the unit. You can also access your SMB, your NFS, your networks, and then you have your favorites, and then the internal storage. The next option is the poster wall. This is where you're going to have a list of all your movies. We'll come back and check that out later. Next option is your music player. That's if you're going to use this device for music. I'm not going to be using it for music. I'm strictly using it for movies. And then under apps is where you have the installed apps. You got a few different options here. I'm not going to deep dive into all the apps, but you can see that we have a Chrome browser, image player, file management, setup wizard, or you can go down here and check for updates. Then the last option are the settings. So let's go ahead and take a quick peek at the settings. The first section here is the playback settings. So right now we have this on auto frame rate. We have it to match frame rate only, or if you want to match frame rate and resolution only, you can do that here. We can do that for third-party apps as well. We've got bookmarks, subtitle and audio options, the function keys, play mode, downloading subtitle, and digital signage mode if you're using this to play back signs or menus or something like that in a storefront. Under display, we've got auto switch to best resolution, and if the device is hooked up to an 8K display, this does support 8K output. We've got everything from 8K 60 all the way down to 720p. Now keep in mind, if you want to output your movies in 8K resolution, you're going to have to lock this into 8K, provided that your display supports 8K output. Go back to the playback options, and then switch to match frame rate only. Because if you match frame rate and resolution and you have the output set as 8K, if it's on match frame rate and resolution and you're watching 4K material, it's going to drop down to 4K/24, whatever 4K content you're watching. So if you want this to upscale up to 8K, you're going to have to keep it on match frame rate only. Unless of course you are watching native 8K content. Next section here are color settings. We have color settings for 8K, 4K, below 4K, and then HDMI signal format. So if you want to output HDR material, you're going to have to change this from standard over to enhanced format. And then for color settings, we have a few different options here from YUV for 28-bit all the way to priority RGB 12-bit. Next section here is HDR. So for the UI, you can display the UI in either SDR or HDR. For my setup, I'm using SDR. And then output mode, you can either keep this on auto, so it'll automatically select the best HDR mode for your display, or under advanced settings, you can change all of the output modes here. So you've got SDR content, you can switch that to output as SDR or HDR. HDR content, you can output it as HDR or SDR, so you can downgrade the HDR10 content, you can output that as HDR or SDR, and then so on and so forth. And then if you want to output everything in Dolby Vision, You can go down here for Dolby Vision VS10 SDR content. You can keep that on yes or no. So if you want SDR content to be output as Dolby Vision, you would just put that on. I am keeping that off because I personally don't like the way that the colors look when you're outputting SDR for HDR. And you can do that for all this relevant content as well. So you can use the VS10 engine for HDR10, HDR10 Plus, HLG, and then VS10 DV content. So for me, I'm using the VS10 for DV content on my projector. Otherwise, it'll output as HDR10. Next section here is custom EDID. We got screen scale, picture parameters, which you can adjust brightness, contrast, hue, and saturation. AI image processing. We'll check this out a little bit later, but we've got a few different options here. We got AI image enhancement, which will use artificial intelligence to identify content scenes and adjust color saturation, brightness, sharpness, dynamic compensation, and intelligent noise reduction frame by frame. So there are a few different options there. There's actually low, medium, and high settings. Again, we'll take a look at that later on. Next option here is enable AISR. So per the note, it says image super resolution is achieved through upscaling technology and deep learning functions, which can intelligently improve the resolution of content presented in streaming media, cable TV, optical discs, etc., etc. And then you have low, medium, high for AI SR level as well. Next section here is the UI interface resolution. You can choose between 1080p and 4K. Obviously, the 4K will be the most detailed, the crispiest, the cleanest looking. So if you have a 4K display, I would highly recommend you select 4K. We've got screensaver, and then the last option here is wallpaper. And then the next section here is audio. We've got a few different options here. You can use the internal player to output via the XLR, analog, HDMI port, or coax optical. And then for USB audio in, if you want to use the internal DACs, you can output via the XLR or analog RCA. But if you are using this for movie watching, you're going to want to keep this on HDMI main port. Then we've got some settings for XLR and RCA, HDMI main port setting, HDMI audio output settings, the optical settings, USB audio output settings, and then Apple Music. You can log in with your Apple Music account and then output as Dolby Atmos. Next section is the network settings. We've got Wi-Fi, Ethernet, Bluetooth, Samba server, and portable hotspot. And the last section here is other. Here we've got settings for language, which we've got a bunch of different languages here. HDMI CEC control, the power mode, HDD sleep mode, fan control, front display panel, keyboards, date and time settings, show the hourly time, main interface if you want to show the weather there. We've got upgrade to check for firmware updates, recovery and reset, and then the last option is the about. And that is it for the settings. Since I'm strictly going to be using this for only movie watching, we're going to go ahead and check out the movie playing app. Right here you can see that I've already run some of my sources, and you can see that it's populated with a lot of the movies that I already have in my system. But upon first setting up, what you're going to have to do is go up here to the top in the right hand corner, right here for the hard drive icon. We're going to go down and collect add source, find the drive that you want to add, go down to your movies folder, select that. It's then going to pop up this little menu here, which you can change depending on what's in that directory you're searching for. So right now I've only got movies in there, so I'm only going to select movies. Although if you picked intelligent, it'll search based on the title of the movie or TV show and select the appropriate information for that particular file. And you do that for all four of these options here, all five of these options here. Once you get that all set up, just start scan, and then you can see the progress bar until it gets to the end. It'll be totally finished. Once that's complete, you can see here on the very bottom, these are all the recent movies that were on that specific drive. Now this is sectioned off into different categories. We've got all movies, TV shows, unmatched titles, board mode, which will select movies randomly that you can watch, your different sources, and then you can edit this entire row. Let's go select movies. You can see here that I've got the poster wall set up. So these are all the movies that I have on all four drives. By selecting the menu button, you can go into the settings option and change your view here. So we've got child lock, so you can put a specific password on there if you have some children, you want to lock them out of this. There's different languages. We have different poster views. So right now you can select either classic mode, cover mode, or list mode. So here we have cover mode. As you can see, the previous mode that we had, it was just the poster wall. So we had grids and grids of icons or posters. Here the posters are listed all the way in the bottom row, and you would just scroll from left to right to get to any specific movie that you want. And then the third option here is list mode. Pretty self-explanatory. You have your list of titles on the left-hand side, and then all the pertinent information for that specific movie is going to be located on the right-hand side. And then of course you can tailor this to however you want to change the visuals of that specific homepage. Then we have other options here such as preferences, poster folder, so if you want to designate your own specific images to specific movies, you can do that here. We've got your library option, so you can back up and restore your library. We've got tracked, you can change your wallpaper, and then we have the about. Now you can see that I've got most of these titles are all correctly identified, but if we go down and check out this here, this says Far From Home, which clearly this is not Spider-Man Far From Home. So if you want to go ahead and correct that, what you'll have to do is hold down on the OK button and go down to rematch. You're going to want to type in the appropriate name, which is already here. It's called Spider-Man Far From Home. Click OK, and then under search results, you'll see that it does say Spider-Man Far From Home. We're going to go ahead and select that, and then click OK. And you can see here that it is now placed under Spider-Man Far From Home. So if you have any mismatched titles, just go ahead, hold down on the title itself, and then you can change all the pertinent information to that specific title. Now if we slide all the way to the left hand side, you can see we can change the views, change different categories, watched, unwatched, recently added, 3D movies, which again this does not support 3D movies. Select only 1080p Blu-rays or watch strictly only 4K Blu-rays. And if you go all the way here in the upper right hand corner, you can also change the views here as well. So the first option is basically the cover flow. Next option is the list view. You can sort per poster name, rating, date added, year, modified time, and duration. And then you can go back to the classic view. Now as far as file playback, most of these are all ISOs or BDMV folders. I think I only have a handful of MKVs in here. But if we click on a movie, you have a few different options. The first option here is you would just play the movie directly without going into the Blu-ray menus. If this is an ISO and you do have Blu-ray menus, you can access this by clicking on the little Blu-ray icon menu there. And then if you want to watch the trailer, that's the trailer, and then you can favorite it clicking on the heart. Let's go ahead and just click on the Blu-ray menu options. And you can see it's pretty snappy, you go straight into the movie. Upper right hand corner, this is VS10 Dolby Vision, because this is a Dolby Vision disc. And we are kicked right into the regular standard Blu-ray menus. The other option here is just to go straight into playing the movie. And you can see it's fairly quick. It took a couple seconds, but it's pretty snappy getting straight into the file. Now, once you are playing a movie, if you tap on the menu button, you have a few different options here. We've got some subtitle options. We've got audio options. So these are the different languages that are on this specific movie. We've got the Blu-ray menus. We've got different aspect ratios. We've got your play mode, so you can do repeat all random, or repeat everything. Then under the advanced section, we have a different few options here. We've got match frame rate and resolution, switch frame rate only, or you can turn that off altogether. We have the resume function, picture parameter, so you can adjust the brightness, contrast, hue, and saturation. AI image process, video information, which will give you information on the file and movie itself. Click on more, and then this will give you all the breakdown of the actual file again. And you can scroll down and it'll give you more information, such as file type, HDR type, max CLL, max FALL. And under more settings, we've got show video information, which we just saw, show video name, show fan art, and then you can clear cache. And also if you hit the info button, tap it once, it'll bring up the little breakdown, the synopsis of the movie. Hit it again, and then in the upper left-hand corner, you can see it'll give you real-time bit rate, what subtitles are on or off, and then the current time of the movie itself. And I will say that navigating through the actual list of movies itself is actually very snappy. I mean, I see no lag whatsoever. The thing that I like to do with this is I just keep the Zidoo on at all times, so that way all the thumbnails always stay in cache. So whenever you turn on the Zidoo or your home theater setup, everything's always in cache and it's always ready to go. So it doesn't always have to rebuild. So I always leave my player on at all times. As for the AI image processing, you have a few different options here. You can either turn this one on or off. You can show information, so in the upper left-hand corner, it'll tell you exactly what it's doing, what it's changing. And there's 3 different levels of AI processing. We've got low, medium, and then high. And then you have the same options here for AI super image. We've got show information, which will pop up in the upper right-hand corner. And then you've got low, medium, and high as well. So I'm going to test out a couple of seconds of this movie, which is Fight Club. This is not in 4K, this is in standard 1080p, it's a Blu-ray. So I wanted to see how well the AI processing did with somewhat lower quality sources. This is an older Blu-ray, so it is very grainy, there's a lot of film grain in it. And of course, it's not as clean and crisp as a standard 4K Blu-ray would look. And just to show the extreme, I did use it with the level placed on high for each, for both AI PQ and AI Super Image. However, everything is being upscaled through the Zidoo up to 4K, so this isn't playing straight 1080p, it is being upscaled to 4K. Now, it may be hard to tell in the video, but AI PQ seems to be sharpening the image while adjusting the color and saturation on the fly. The AI Super Image isn't adjusting the color, but it is sharpening the image. Using it on high for both AI options can add a little bit of ringing to the picture. If you were gonna use any of these, I'd say try to use it on low. You should also be able to tell how the color looks slightly more saturated on the AI PQ image, while the AI Super Image and the non-processed image, the color looks pretty much the same. This is one of those subjective features that you may or may not like. I think the biggest feature is the 8K upscaling. It's really subtle, but using it on 4K content, the image does appear to be slightly cleaner, maybe a little smoother looking since the pixel density is a lot tighter. It's not trying to add any additional detail that's not there, but I do find the picture does look a bit better. I am using a JVC NZ8 projector, which does handle 8K 60 at 150 inches. And at this size, while it isn't a night and day difference, does make enough of a difference and does make picking up the Zidoo UHD8000 a worthwhile addition to your setup. It's also going to be my new reference file playback media player for the time being. And at the time of this video, it isn't on sale on the Zidoo store just yet, although I have seen it selling for around $1,300 online. Now, although I'm not going to use this for music playback, this does have fully balanced audio outputs, and it does use the ESS Sabre 9069Q flagship DAC. So for a movie playing device, this has got some serious audiophile chops if you want to use it to pull double duty for music and movies. The only real negative, besides that upside down display window, is the fact that they got rid of 3D playback support, which I know is going to keep some people away from buying this player and also keep it from being the ultimate all-in-one file playback device. It's close, but it needs that feature for movie fans. Other than that, it's super fast navigating through the UI, and it didn't have any issues playing back any of my backed up movies, and it sounded great in both Dolby Atmos and DTS:X. Well, what are your thoughts on these new Zidoo 8K players? I think they're the best out there right now and a safe buy, and I'm pretty sure they're not going to go out of business anytime soon just to turn around and come back with a different name. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.